Hi everybody, welcome to Eye on Oshkosh. Cheryl Hentz here, and we're going to be talking about a very special and exciting event tonight on this episode. The event starts in January, and we'll also share some general conversation about race, racial literacy, and some of the racial tensions that we all hear about every single day in this country. So to join us in this conversation and to tell us about the event is someone who's been on once before. It's Tracy Robertson. She's the executive director of Fit Oshkosh here in town. And you know, you were on, I was just talking, it was about a year ago.
That's right.
About a year ago this time
That's
that you were on. And then Jennifer and Anthony were on maybe about well, it was sometime this summer. It was before she relocated.
That's
so
right.
It seems like every 6 months we do something with you guys. And it's always fun. But for someone who's maybe just seeing you or hearing about Fit Oshkosh for the first time, let's just talk a little bit about what Fit Oshkosh does before we get into this event that you've got coming up and so forth.
Sure. So Fit Oshkosh is a local nonprofit. We're a 501c3 here in Oshkosh, and our mission is to increase the racial literacy of the residents of Winnebago County. Our goal is really to help our community and the Fox Valley at large get a better understanding around race, how to navigate it, how to unpack it, what it means for a city that's increasingly diversifying, as well as the rest of the nation. So that's really what our work is all about.
Okay. And you know, you formed sort of in the midst of 2014. So this year has actually been your first full year of being in operation. And tell us a little bit about some of the achievements that you've had during this last year.
Yep, so July marked our 1-year anniversary. We were really excited about that, and we've been very busy over the course of the last year. We've done a lot of training, racial literacy workshops and training in the community. We have done a really big community event, a basketball game between the Oshkosh Police Department and some minority youth in the community. We have now started another initiative that we're going to be talking about, and I'm incredibly excited about. We've also been doing some monthly community conversations that where we invite the community in to watch a film or clip, and then we have some facilitated conversation around race. And then we've also been doing some small group training for community members to come into our office and play a game that helps people to pick up some more tools around race and how to talk about it and how to navigate it. And so it's been a lot of fun, a really busy year.
Okay, so let's just, and I should just say, not that I need to disclaim anything, but it's kind of weird talking like I don't know anything about this group, because I have, since last year when Tracy first came on the show, I've been volunteering a lot of time with Fit Oshkosh, and so it's hard for me. As I was doing some show prep on this, I'm like, what should I ask her, because I know the answers to all these questions. But you folks don't necessarily, and so I put myself in your shoes and in your seat to prepare questions for tonight. But I'm just so incredibly proud to, first of all, count you among one of my closest friends, you know, but also to be associated with this group, because, you know, and obviously you're black, I'm not black, and the people who volunteer with the group is, you know, it's evenly handed when it comes to race.
Sure.
You know, and it's nice to work together in concert and work toward, you know, kind of bridging those gaps that there are in the racial diversity and the racial tensions that we all see and hear about. So I'm just really proud to be associated with the group.
Oh, thank you. You've been such an integral part of our success, and I can't thank you enough for all the gifts you bring. And I think you raise a really important point. You know, oftentimes people think that the work that we do is about a certain group of people. It really isn't. The work that we're doing around race in this community helps everybody. It impacts everybody. This isn't a black or white issue. This is an issue for our entire community. So the fact that we have lots of volunteers of all races and all religions that have lent their time and energies to our work, I think speaks volumes about the impact that it can have in our community.
It's about race, it's about ethnicity, it's about gender identity or sexual orientation, which is not why I got involved with it, but you know, it's about everybody being able to feel like they fit in. And
Absolutely.
Hence the name, Fit Oshkosh.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, we do have a very special event coming up, and it kicks off just about a month from today. So, and we're taping this on the 17th of December. Christmas is but a week away, and that's hard to believe.
It is.
So I hope everybody's got their shopping done, so you can sit back and relax and watch the show. So tell us about the event that's coming up, starting January 19th.
Yes, so we have received a grant from the Wisconsin Humanities Council to have a color brave community read of an incredibly powerful book called Between the World and Me by an award-winning author. His name is Ta-Nehisi Coates. And the book is a book that he wrote to his son about being a black man in this country and what that feels like and what that is. Mr. Coates was recently at Lawrence University where he spoke at their convocation to a packed house. His message is incredibly powerful. It's also very real. And so I think that this is going to be a great opportunity for our entire community to get engaged, to be on the same page, to find a safe space where they can come in, read the book, engage in some conversation about race. We're really incredibly excited about it, and some of our partners, our other partners on the project include the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, the Oshkosh Senior Center, Celebrate Diversity, and Appleton is a huge partner in this endeavor. So we're just excited that we have this opportunity to, as an entire community, commit to reading the same book, commit to coming to a different place of understanding. And we have a lot of really high-level community stakeholders who felt like this was important, and they've committed to and are reading the book. So people like our city manager, Mark Roloff, is reading the book. Chancellor Levitt is reading the book.
Mayor Steve Cummings.
Mayor Cummings is reading the book.
Ben Stepanek.
Councilman Stepanek.
Sue Panek from the Oshkosh Area United Way.
Gordon Hentz.
Gordon Hentz. I know we're forgetting somebody somewhere in there, but a lot of community leaders. And why are they reading it? Because they feel it's important to try to understand someone's perspective and stand in their shoes, if you will, for a short space in time. And if you can understand how someone feels by being in their place or putting yourself in their place, then you have better understanding. And with better understanding, hopefully comes more peaceful relations.
Sure.
And who doesn't want peace, you know?
Yep, and obviously there's a lot of racialized things happening around the world. Really close to us in Chicago now, there's a really big case around an officer who shot a teenager 16 or 17 times, some pretty excessive gunfire there. And so, and I think what a lot of people have come to recognize, at least a lot of people who have spoken with me, they've come to recognize that this is an issue for everyone, and we honestly don't have the tools to address it. We don't know how to talk about it. We don't know how to fix it. We don't have the tools. And so I've had lots of book clubs in the community, 3 or 4, who've said, listen, this is an important conversation. we're going to get involved. We're going to be doing this read with you because we want to do a better job. We want to just come from a different place of understanding. And we know that this issue is broken, and we want to be a part of the solution and getting it fixed. So I think this is a great start.
Sure. And another partner in this project was First Congregational Church here in Oshkosh.
Yes.
And I feel like we're forgetting someone else in that partnership arena too. But I'll think of it. I know we mentioned that it's going to be at the alumni. Did we talk about that yet?
No.
That it's going to, okay. I just cut a PSA for this before we sat down here, and so now I'm trying to remember what we talked about yet and what I just said in a commercial spot. So anyway, UW Oshkosh is involved in this as well. They're going to be a partner, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But you know, you talk about understanding. One thing I would like to understand, and maybe you can shed some light on this, is someone who's not being a partner in this is the Oshkosh City Public Library, the Oshkosh Public Library, and they were asked by you, yes?
Yes.
And what was their, well, I know what their response was, but why don't you tell folks why they aren't involved in this?
Well, I feel like it's a real missed opportunity that the library isn't involved. One of the first people that I talked to about this idea was Joe Bonkers, who is the head of the library in the Neenah Menasha area. They've had tremendous success with book reads, community reads, and so I went to them and talked to Joe about some best practices. And when I went to our library to talk to them about it, they said that, well, first they said that community reads have not historically done well here. And I explained to them that, you know, we have a really good following of people who come to our community conversations. We have lots of people that come to our game nights. A lot of the really important and significant stakeholders in this community have gotten behind this project. And I felt like with that kind of backing, with the tremendous success that we've had in getting media coverage as an organization, with the topic of race being such a hot topic all over the country, that the timing was right and that they should have gotten involved. And they have declined to do so.
Yep.
So we were able to thankfully partner with the Senior Center and with the Oshkosh, University of Oshkosh, Wisconsin campus to host this conversation and not utilize the library. But I feel like it's a big missed opportunity. I feel like our community is very literate. Our community cares a lot about understanding differences in culture. And so I'm not exactly sure where that discomfort, there appeared to be some discomfort around the topic. I'm not sure where that discomfort came from, but to say that I'm disappointed is an understatement.
Well, and I am too, Tracy, because, you know, I mean, I'm a homeowner here. I pay property taxes, and part of my property taxes go to fund the public library. And I'm not, you know, please understand, I'm not knocking the library, folks. I think the library is a tremendous resource that we have, and people should take as much advantage of that opportunity to use it and get familiarized with it as they can. But when they have an opportunity to do something like this and they basically toss it aside with no regard for the people who are involved or the fact that this is a timely topic, then I become a little bit annoyed. And that's something that I personally will remember the next time the library wants some additional funding from all of our tax dollars, of which I pay some. And so all I can say is shame on the Oshkosh Public Library for their poor decision in this.
Well, and also I think, you know, how could you be a library system and not, you know, anything that's happening around a book, I would imagine you want to be a part of as a library.
You would think so.
And so I wish I could better understand the logic behind that decision. But you just forge ahead, right? You partner with those people who want to partner with you, and you forge ahead. And we've been thankfully able to do that with lots of support from people in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, when our own city manager and our own mayor and one of our council members is stepping up and saying, hey, we want to get behind this, I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
And that sends a very loud message, in addition to the others, the city leaders who have said, we're on board with this and we want to be part of the read. So let's talk about the specifics of the read. It goes from January through June.
Yes.
And we've got a schedule that I believe that the folks can put up. But tell us how this is going to, basically, tell us the mechanics of how this is going to function.
Sure. So on January 19th, we're going to have a kickoff. We're going to have one at the Senior Center from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. And then we're going to have one that evening from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Alumni Center. We thought it was really important to have seniors be a part of this conversation around race. So we wanted to bring the conversation to them. We also hope that the Senior Center is going to be open to the public for these reads. So we're hoping that there will be some opportunity for some intergenerational engagement at the Senior Center. The event is going to happen there. We're going to have, on the kickoff night, we're going to have some speakers that are going to come in. Mark Roloff's going to be speaking at the Senior Center. Chancellor Levitt's going to be speaking at the Alumni Center that night, along with some other special guest readers. We will be distributing books. The grant that we received affords us an opportunity to purchase 50 copies of the book. As you mentioned, First Congregational Church has also been a tremendous partner in this and has given us some money to purchase books. So we'll do a book distribution that night after we have the speakers talk, and I talk a little bit about how the next 6 months are going to progress. Then we will break up into some small groups. We have some facilitators, really talented facilitators that have lots of experience helping people to have conversation and rich dialogue around race. And then we will break up and have those conversations. And then every month after that through June, we'll also be meeting. So.
And everybody, the beauty of this is that everybody reads the chapters during the same time period. You know, chapters will be, if we can have the schedule back up again so that we can refer to it, and I can't really see that from here, but like say for example on January 19th when the kickoff is, the chapters will be assigned that evening for the next month's meeting?
That's correct. So the schedule that is available on the screen and we'll make available on our website and other places tells you what pages that you should read. So every month when the participants show up, we will have facilitated questions for them to be mulling over as they read those next chapters, things for them to be thinking about as they read, and those are the questions we'll talk about so we can make sure that the conversation is focused and enriched. And then we have assigned specific chapters that we would encourage people to read every month so that you're on the same page as the rest of the city, as the rest of the city, so you would have an opportunity to be having the same conversation about the same pages, and it's just going to make for a really good conversation for us here.
Sure.
So.
And you know, if you're wanting to take part in this community read, you know, you don't have to wait for the books to be distributed on January 19th. Several people already have copies themselves, and I downloaded mine yesterday, and because it's funny, I enjoy sitting and actually holding a book in my hand, and yet when I think about going to a meeting, I don't want to have to remember to take the book along, so because I usually have my phone with me anyway, and I can just have it right on my Kindle in my phone, and that'll be that. But you know, you don't have to wait for the books to be distributed. You can get it, I think, through Amazon for like $12 in a Kindle version. There are other places where you can get it as little as $8, I think. So, you know, feel free to go ahead and get it beforehand. And if you're watching in some other part of Wisconsin or another part of the country via YouTube, you know, and obviously you won't be here to participate in the facilitated conversations, but, you know, feel free to get the book and read along with us, because this is not just an Oshkosh-based issue when we think about seeing things from a black person's perspective. It's a worldwide issue, and certainly encompassed in that is the nation as a whole.
And one of the things I'm considering for the read is to have some kind of online component where people can maybe converse with me or another facilitator about what they've had an opportunity to read, maybe do some whiteboarding. So that's kind of a new phase of the project that I'm considering, and I'm figuring out the logistics around that. But I'd love to be able to offer that as well for people who can't come out every month.
Or who don't live here.
Or who don't live here, absolutely. But still want to be a part of what's going to be a really important conversation in our community. So.
And Fit Oshkosh's website is fit, and then there's a dash or a hyphen, oshkosh.org, and we'll be putting that up throughout the hour. There's also a Fit Oshkosh Facebook page, and you can go there. There's lots of different ways that you can get to fit, or get fit.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, and for the people who are having books provided to them, something very special is happening with those books also after the read. They don't get to keep them, but they're going to a very good resource.
Yes. So one of the grant requirements was that we don't give the books away, that we would donate the books at the end of the read. And so those books are going to be going to the Multicultural Center at UWO. We're really excited to be able to do that for the university. It's a small token of our appreciation for how they've partnered with us and been real champions for helping to move this project along. So, yeah. And,
you know, another point that should be made is because the Seniors Center will be the location for the daytime reads, you don't have to be a senior to go there. If you typically go or want to go to the Alumni and Welcome Center in the evening, but you've maybe got something going on one of the nights, you're welcome to go to the Senior Center earlier in the day. And if you take a winter vacation or whatever and you miss a day during the month, it's not a big deal. You can just continue reading and come the next time. So don't feel like you have to, you know, be available every single date, of which there will be 6. You know, don't please let that stop you from participating in this. I think that's the important thing.
I think that's right. I think there's lots of opportunities for people to be talking about this book, whether they make it to the formal events once a month. You know, there's nothing to prevent you from grabbing a girlfriend in a coffee shop and talking about this book, or talking about this in your classroom, talking about this at your church. We really don't care how people participate. We think it's a lot more important that people participate. I think this is going to change the narrative around race in our city, in the Fox Valley.
Okay. And, you know, one of the reasons that we're offering it at the Senior Center is because we know that, I mean, we've been blessed so far with pretty good weather.
We have.
But that's not going to be the case probably too much longer. And a lot of folks don't like driving at night when there's really bad weather. A lot of senior people just don't like driving at night, period, and it's easier for them to get out during the day. If people are on bus lines and they don't have their own transportation, you know, our buses stop running by, I believe it's 6 or 6, I think it's 6 o'clock in the evening, and, you know, then you wouldn't be able to get to the Alumni and Welcome Center. So lots of good reasons why the Oshkosh Seniors Center was selected, and we certainly thank them for their willingness to come forward and work with us on this.
Absolutely. They've been a great partner in this in this read, and really committed and dedicated to getting the seniors involved.
So if we could have that calendar back up just one more time, I think, while we're still kind of talking about this. If people want to write down the dates and the times, I know for me it looks a little bit blurry, but that's probably just me. So you can write down those dates and those times. They'll also be, like I said, on the Fit Oshkosh website, fit-oshkosh.org, or on Fit's Facebook page. Just go to Facebook and type in Fit Oshkosh, and the logo and the name will come up. And so mention again who the partners are on this. Wisconsin Humanities Council, First Congregational Church, obviously the Senior Center, and the UW-Oshkosh Alumni and Welcome Center. The Wisconsin Humanities Council, for sure.
And then Celebrate Diversity, which
Celebrate
is
Diversity,
an organization in Oshkosh that trains and certifies facilitators to help with those conversations.
Appleton, you mean?
In Appleton.
Okay.
What did I say?
You said on Oshkosh.
In Appleton.
You got Oshkosh on the brain.
I have Oshkosh on the brain.
That's okay.
I'm an Oshkonian now.
It's Fit Oshkosh, and this is Ion Oshkosh, and so that was an honest mistake. So let's talk about, for the rest of the show, race in general. The last show that we taped was, we were talking with Lisa Snosky and Carrie Sylvia Butler.
Carey.
Yeah, there we go. See, now I'm screwing up. Sylvia Carey Butler, and from the university. And we were talking about some of the Martin Luther King celebrations that are coming up in January.
Yes.
And, but then we also talked about race tensions in the country and that kind of thing. This is a hard community, I think, sometimes for black people to fit into, is it not?
I would say so. I would say that that's been my personal experience. I've lived here, it's been 4 years in August, and I'm just this year really feeling like I've gotten some traction here as a person of color. Still a lot of work to do, but I feel I've gotten a little bit of traction. But I work a lot with African Americans in the community, and the theme is the same, that it's a really hard place to feel welcomed. It's a hard place to feel appreciated. It's a hard place to just feel like you fit in, and so thus the name Fit Oshkosh. That was a really common theme amongst people when I first moved here. Is they'd say, you know, I'm in Oshkosh for this reason. I'm in Oshkosh to get my degree. I'm in Oshkosh to get this particular skill set on my resume, and then I'm leaving because this is not my home. It's not a place that I fit. And so we wanted to name our organization Fit Oshkosh because we thought it was important to fix that. Our work is really about fixing that and making Oshkosh and the Fox Valley in general a place where people feel like they fit and they have a place and they're respected and they're welcome.
Yeah.
So we've got some work to do.
Yeah, and gosh, so many things now I'm thinking about that are offshoots of what you just said. First and foremost, why do you think it is that people have a tough time sort of navigating the city? Because as someone who was born and raised here, I've always had the feeling that this is a very friendly city. You know, I can remember when I was graduating high school and moving on to another state, the population in Oshkosh was only about 43,000, so it was kind of a much smaller city then, but still a very nice, friendly little town.
Sure.
You know, and I think by and large we are, but how is it that a bunch of friendly folks in friendly Oshkosh can make someone of color or of some other ethnicity, some other race, feel like they don't really fit in? What could we do differently? What has your treatment, what has your experience been?
Well, let me answer your first question first. So people think that because they're not being overtly racist. So I've lived here for 4 years. Not a single person has burned one cross on my lawn. And so people are not overtly racist to me. So people feel like if I'm not being overtly racist, that I don't have any racist tendencies. I don't have any racial microaggressions. I'm not using the N-word. I'm not walking around with a white sheet on my head. I don't see color, which is a big issue. That things are okay. But when we look at some of the treatment that African Americans have received when they walk into businesses here, when we look at our leadership in the country, in the city, there isn't a single solitary black person in a position of leadership in our city.
That's true.
When we look at our school district, there aren't any black people that teach in our school district, right? So if you went to a place where everyone was green, that would feel foreign to you. That would not be a comfortable place for you.
Right.
When people come here to look for work, one of the things that we hear a lot from businesses is that we can't recruit people of color, which isn't true. You're not choosing to recruit people of color. But let's talk about when a person of color comes here. If a person of color comes here and they don't see anybody or anything that they can identify with, it's not going to be a comfortable place for them. If they come to our university and they don't see any people that look like them that teach, it's not going to be a comfortable place for them. So I think that's one of the really big missteps that we've made as a city, is that we really haven't put people of color in positions of leadership. Racism is still alive and well in this country. It just doesn't look the same. A lot of the racism we see is in policy making, right? So, Wisconsin was named the worst state in the nation, #1 for people of color. That speaks volumes about a person's experience. That says to me, as a person who lives here of color, that this is not a place where I can be successful. Now, you said you've lived here all your life. Have you ever woken up one day here and said, this is not a place where I can be successful?
No, no, and I haven't lived here all my life. I was born and raised here. This will always be considered home to me. But I did live away for 12 years, and it was kind of a culture shock in many ways when I went from a town or a city of 43,000 people to Houston, which at that time, and I believe it still is, the fourth largest city in the country with like 4.5 million or whatever it was at the time. And, I certainly saw a lot of people of color there, and I saw a lot of people, of Hispanic ethnicity and so forth. I guess, and I was taught as a child to just treat everyone nicely. I mean, and not like they're something to be ignored or afraid of, because they're different from us. We had some Korean neighbors when I was a very young child, and they were some of the best friends that my folks had. And so I feel very blessed and fortunate to have been taught that at a young age. Not everyone has that experience, though. And, so no, I've never felt like I can't be successful here. Although, depending on what you do, sometimes I think I could be more successful writing in a bigger city or, broadcasting in a bigger city or whatever. But I choose to live here. Yeah, I may choose to retire in a warmer climate, but for now I choose to live here.
You're a smart woman. Well, I think too, I can think of two incidents, very recent incidents with business owners here who have said some really racist things on social media about customers that have come in. Those things are happening.
Such as, give us examples without citing the businesses.
Absolutely. So there's one business owner in town, pretty successful business in town, and that business owner posted on her Facebook page. I was actually a friend of this business on Facebook because it was a business that I visited and frequented and liked. And that particular business owner posted that some some black men, is what she said, had come into her establishment in golf clothes, and they had frightened her employees. And so she was warning other business owners to beware that two black men in golf clothes were in her store. And so when people began to challenge her about that comment, and saying, well, was something taken? Was there a robbery?
Did they make weird comments?
Did they threaten anyone? Yeah. The comment was, well, I am just trying really hard to warn other business owners. And
warn about what? That's the point. Warn about what?
Right. And so in the workshops that we teach, we talk a lot about impact versus intent. So I'm going to give this business owner the benefit of the doubt and say that her intent was that she and her employees were fearful for whatever reason, And her intent was to warn her colleagues about this incident. I'm still not quite sure what the incident is. That's the intent. But what's the impact for me as a black woman reading that on your page? Not only am I a black woman, but I'm a customer.
Yeah.
I frequent your business. So what that said to me as a customer is that if I happen to show up wearing the wrong clothes, or if maybe I stop in on my way to go golfing, then I'm not welcome. That's what that said to me. And I thought that was incredibly irresponsible of the business owner. I actually reached out to the business owner and said, I just would love to sit down with you and kind of help you to understand the impact of what you shared. And that business owner was unwilling to talk to me. So I've had to sever that relationship. And every opportunity I get, when that business name comes up, I tell people my story. And they have also decided not to go to that business. So it's really unfortunate that that business owner was unwilling to just hear how that comment would impact, you know, African Americans or any minorities that might happen into your establishment. But those kinds of microaggressions, we call those racial microaggressions. They're happening all the time. The American Public Health Association just did a webinar series about the impact of racism on minority communities. And they're citing all of these physical problems that people of color are having just from the stress that they experience because of all of the racial microaggressions that they're seeing all the time. Even the way that physicians engage them and treat them, there are huge disparities in that treatment. And so this is a real thing. And you know, one of the myths I want to dispel almost immediately is when we're talking to people in this community about race, one of the things they say, I try to help them to understand is that this, yes, is this a moral issue? Is being good to people and treating people with a certain level of respect a moral issue? Absolutely. But what it really is it's an economic sustainability issue because the country at large is diversifying, right? Oshkosh a little slower than a lot of the country, but certainly Oshkosh is becoming more diverse and will continue to become more diverse. In fact, the Census Bureau is predicting that within the next 30 years, there will be more people who identify as minority than white. So minorities will be the majority and whites will be the minority. So doing things the way we've always done things, assigning power to the people we've always assigned power to, that's not going to work. We've got to do this work. If we want to do business globally, and we do want to do business globally, if we want to compete with our neighbors for millennials, they all care about being in a diverse place. They all care about cities and want to live and work in places that they perceive as inclusive. I mean, if you ask them what inclusive means, to them it means diverse. I mean, the millennials grew up with the internet, right? They're talking to people in China right now. So when they come to a place like Oshkosh, that's very sterile and very white, and there's no diversity in our businesses, in our churches, in our government, in our schools, that seems very foreign to them. So what are they going to do? They're going to pick up their families and they're going to move to places like some of our neighbors because they find those places to be more progressive. And Oshkosh, in their opinion, seems very dated. So we've got to do this work if we want to compete for talent, if we want to compete for tax dollars. This is going to be important. If we want to win contracts globally, do business globally, we've got to do this work. We've really got to get a handle on what we have to offer as a community.
Well, and it's just good business to have a diversified workforce anyway.
Absolutely.
I mean, I write a lot of business articles professionally, and what every business owner tells me is when you bring a more diverse workforce to the table, you have a pooling of much better and a better cross-section of ideas.
Absolutely.
So it's just better business all the way around. It should be one of business's best practices is to have a diversified workforce. So any company that is truly successful, if you look at them, they'll have a diversified workforce.
Absolutely.
You know, we talked a little bit about that the Oshkosh Area School District, I believe you said, doesn't have one black teacher. And that's kind of surprising and yet kind of not. you know, what can they do to recruit more people? And as the other part of that, you know, if people know that Oshkosh is kind of sterile and white, will people of color or of different ethnicities want to come here? Maybe they are recruiting and they're just not getting people here because they don't want to come here. So how do we crack that nut, if you will?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to do is stop saying we can't do it, right? That's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You can do it. One of the things that we tell businesses when we consult with them is to start, you know, where are you starting? Where are you looking? Where are you starting? Look at your job description. Start right there. Typically what we do when we want to recruit non-white employees is we take the same job description we give to anybody, we send it out to the atmosphere, give it to our employees and say, recruit anybody, you know, refer any of your friends who aren't black. That doesn't work. That model doesn't work. What you really need to do is sit down at the table and say, okay, what specific skill set would a person of a diverse background bring? So let's look at this idea of the school system. If you want to recruit teachers who are more diverse, well, what kinds of skill sets would they bring to that experience? Well, one of the things you could say, and of course I'm just saying this off the top of my head, is maybe you would add something that said, you know, we're looking for a teacher who has experience working in an urban community. Now, if you add that to your job description, will you still get white candidates? Absolutely. Because there are white teachers who have taught in urban communities. But your opportunity to recruit more minorities increases, so you'll have more applicants in the pool to choose from. And there are models out there. There are school districts who have done this well. Go to them, ask them what they've done. It might require a commitment from you. You might have to recruit outside of the Wisconsin area. You might have to go to places where there's a really rich pool of African American talent, like a place like Atlanta, where Dr. Carrie Sylvia Butler is from. So if you want to do it, you might have to extend your reach. It might cost you a little more money than your typical recruit, but either you want to accomplish that goal or you don't. And the fact that those kinds of efforts have not been put into place says to me that you really don't want to do it, because it's possible. It's really possible. I live here. Dr. Sylvia Carrie Butler lives here. There are lots of talented, educated African American people in this community. We all came. For whatever reasons that we came, we're here. So if we made it and we live here, we're making homes here, making lives here, it's possible for other people. Now, to answer the second part of your question is, you know, this has to be a community effort, right? So let's say the school district identifies some teachers who are qualified to teach in the Oshkosh area school district. That's great. You bring them in for an interview. Well, if everywhere they go, they're not seeing any pictures of themselves. They're not being embraced by businesses when they go to have lunch. When you take them out to lunch, if people are perpetrating racial microaggressions against them, that's going to be problematic, right? So the entire community has to get around this idea. We all have to be working on ways to diversify the system at large, right? Racism is a system. Right? What's happening in Oshkosh and its inability to recruit officers and police officers and teachers and leadership that are black is systemic. And so we just need to dig in and own that and really look for ways and models to do that.
Well, and one thing, and we have the pleasure of being able to say this tonight. I don't think it's common knowledge yet, but it will be very soon, and with the announcement here, it will also help to be. You know, Appleton has a diversity, what's the actual title? Is it a diversity coordinator, or what is that position up there?
That's correct. It's Kathy Flores, and she's the diversity coordinator for the Appleton area.
And so the City Council here in Oshkosh has just given City Manager Mark Roloff his marching orders, if you will, for the next year, his goals for the next year. And the number one goal, you know, was to create a diversity coordinator type position. And so that is just tremendous.
Yes, is it appropriate to clap? I'm going to clap.
All right, we'll all clap. Yay! Because, you know, this of course hasn't been fleshed out yet, exactly how it's going to work, but does Kathy Flores up in Appleton, does she work with businesses to help them develop more diverse workforces, or exactly what does she do in her position?
Mm-hmm. I can't speak to everything that she does. I know that she works in the business district. The Appleton area just did something called a plunge, where they literally took people to visit African American communities, business owners. They took them on a bus and gave them a tour of the African American communities. So they do business. They do things she does things in the school district. Her reach is very far-reaching, mm-hmm. And so the impact that she's been able to have has been great. Now, has Appleton gotten it all right? Absolutely not. Their police chief recently wrote an article or commentary in the newspaper that was quite alarming. But the fact that they have that position, the fact that not only do they have that position, but Kathy has authority. She's not just the figurehead. She's there making change for the community. And it's visible, it's prevalent. So the fact that they've even made that commitment would speak volumes to someone looking to move to a community like ours. They could say, wow, they've got a diversity coordinator, not just a figurehead, but a person who's a mover mm-hmm. and shaker in their community, yeah. who has the backing of their senior management, who has the backing of their mayor, right? When she speaks, it's almost like the mayor spoke, mm-hmm. right? And yeah. So to have someone in that position with that kind of authority is amazing. And it has really made an impact in the Appleton area in terms of their capacity to attract people of color and retain people of color.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, Tracy, this is about being successful and sustainable. As a community, as business owners, no matter as local government, whatever the case may be, it's about being sustainable. And I think that going along with that, you have to. You said something earlier about if you don't see someone who looks like you're not going to feel welcome. And those weren't your exact words, but pretty close. And I think that's so true. And so maybe when companies put their website together, they should start putting people of color, people of, whatever their ethnicity may be, whatever their race may be, put a bunch of different people. Make your imaging diverse.
Well, not just stock photos, right? I mean, we don't want you to go out to Google Images and find pictures of people of color.
That's not what I'm saying.
I just want to be very clear
right,
about that.
Yeah.
That's happened here in town, by the way.
That has?
That has happened here in town. Yeah.
Well, no, that's not what we want. But here again, if you don't have a diverse workforce, then you kind of miss the boat on the photo op. So I don't know what you do in a case like that. Maybe that's why they used a stock photo. But no, you don't want to give the impression of something that's not accurate.
Yes, that's true. That's very true.
So,
that's very true.
San Francisco, as big a city as that is, and I know this because it's where I write a lot of business stories about, the African American community there felt such an out-migration of their people, if you will, that when the tourism department there put together promotional videos trying to get conventions and big meetings there, they weren't seeing people of color. And the people of color in San Francisco said, you know what, we're a shareholder in this too. And you need to represent our race in your stuff. They reshot the entire promotional video because, boycotts have been threatened. You've got the Super Bowl coming up there in January, and there's a talk of boycotting some of the things that go along with the Super Bowl. So they sat up and they took notice. And they reshot that marketing video.
We have a partnership that we're still solidifying with a really big employer in De Pere. And one of the things that they told us is that they had an intern come in of color and kind of look around and say, what am I seeing? What's my experience? What's my real experience as a person of color walking into this environment? And that particular intern was able to give them some ideas about what kinds of things to put on the wall, what kinds of things to put in their literature. So again, you know, if you wanted to really do it, it's possible. It's being done all around us. We don't even have to reinvent the wheel, right? We can pick up some best practices of other cities, other police departments, other school districts, other chambers, right? Other tourism bureaus who are doing this well. I think about some of the events that our city has. Two of the big events here are Rock USA, am I right? Country USA.
Country USA and Rock USA.
And Rock USA. Now
and Life Fest.
And Life Fest
is a big one.
So let's think about that. Okay. Who are you inviting in with those events, and who are you excluding? I'm not suggesting at all that people of color don't like country music. I watched the Country Music Awards myself this year to see Justin Timberlake, but that's a whole nother story. But I'm not suggesting that. But I'm saying the vast majority of people of color probably don't listen to rock or country.
Not rock either? I know that a lot of them don't listen to country music.
Not a lot. And again, I can't speak for everyone. I certainly don't know every single black person who lives in Oshkosh. But that's not typically the kind of thing that most people of color, not just black people of color, would be attracted to. So when you think about, when you're planning activities for a city, who are you including, who are you excluding? Right?
Right.
Again, I'm making a generalization that's probably not really smart of me since I do racial literacy work. But when I think about my network of friends, those are not activities that they would be attracted to. So what do? I get in my car, I go to Milwaukee, and I go to Gospel Fest. I get in my car and I go to Appleton and I go to the PAC because they have theater that I'm attracted to. They have an event coming up in January that I'm really excited about, where there's a largely African-American cast. So, you know, what we do is we really hurt ourselves as a community, because now I've spent money in Milwaukee just a few weeks ago to go to Gospel Fest, and now I'm going to spend money in January to go to PAC. So when we're thinking about, when we're planning, who's at the table when these decisions are made and who isn't?
Yeah.
Who are these activities going to attract, and who are they going to not be attractive to? Those are things we need to consider. And I wonder, I don't know, I've never had a single solitary conversation with the Visitors Bureau. I'd like to. And I want to understand kind of what the logic is around, or what the theory is around the offerings that they have. Because when I look at the schedule of activities happening in Oshkosh, there's rarely anything that I personally want to be a part of, and the people in my circle want to be a part of.
Okay. Well, and that would also, I suppose, include like the Grand Opera House. You know, although they're sort of in competition for dollars, kind of, with the PAC, you know, so you can't necessarily bring the same types of acts in when you've got cities that are just 20 miles apart. But that would be something for them to think about as well.
I would encourage them to do so.
Yeah, yeah. One thing, and we're running out of time, but one thing that we talked about a little bit earlier was you said that people will say, I don't see color. I don't see color. And I don't know, I think that they're probably saying the same thing as being colorblind. And I think, we've had this conversation so many times.
We have.
I've talked about it on this show, and I just want to reiterate again that when most people, I think, when they say that they're colorblind, they don't mean any offense by it at all. They certainly see that they're talking to someone who is a different color than them. I think what they mean, certainly what I mean, and I would hazard a guess, and probably pretty accurately so, that when most people say it also, they're not saying, I don't recognize that you're black or you're brown-skinned. I recognize that you are a different color than me, but I'm not going to treat you with any less respect because of it.
Okay.
I think that's what people mean. That certainly is what I mean. But, you know, when we had our very first conversation about that, it did make me think. You have to get to know that person a little bit better and see what they've experienced, what their culture has been, what they've been through in their lives. And I've asked you a lot of different questions in the last year. Some that I wouldn't mind sharing with folks, and others that, you know, they're kind of just between us. But, you know, I'm trying to expand my racial literacy and understand other races than my own a little bit better. And that's the work that you do.
Yep. So we could spend a lot of time talking about colorblind theory. There's a whole theory behind it. But let's just really simplify it. It's not working. This whole idea of I'm colorblind, that's what I grew up. That's the lesson I was given. If to be a good Midwesterner, you have to be colorblind. Is it working? It's not working, right? We see it being played out all over the country. It's not working. So when something's not working, what do? You do something different. And so what we're encouraging, so it's a proven failure. It's a proven failure. You can turn on your television right now and see that the colorblind theory, that philosophy, is broken. It doesn't work. It's contributing to where we are in society right now. It's contributing to all the racialized things that we're seeing played out. So it's not working. So what we encourage people to do in our work is to be color brave. We want you to have the conversation. We want you to talk about your discomfort. We want you to think about white privilege. That's a real thing, right? We want you to look at your practices and policies. We want you to look at your leadership. Let's be brave about it. Let's stop pretending that it's not an issue in our country. It is, right? So our concept and all of the programming that we do is called Color Brave something. So we have Color Brave Community Conversations. We have this Color Brave Community Read coming up. Because we want to empower people to stop having conversations about race behind closed doors, and let's be really brave and talk about it. Because that's
or
the
not
only
having
way we're
the
going to fix it.
conversation at all.
Or not having the conversation at all. You can't fix anything, right, without having a conversation, without having dialogue around it. So that's what our work is really about. We want to bring this issue to the forefront. We want to give people tools to really be able to unpack the system of racism and move forward in a different and more productive way that everybody benefits from. This work doesn't just benefit me as a person of color. This work benefits everyone. So that's what our work is about.
Okay. And we're almost out of time, but I just want to remind folks again about the Color Brave Community Read coming up, kicking off Tuesday, January 19th, and there the dates are again. And you've got a couple of other events coming up. Do you want to talk about those just very briefly, or at least give the dates and what's going to be happening on those?
Sure. So our next Color Brave community conversation is going to be pretty hard-hitting. We're going to be talking about Islamophobia. And so that event is going to take place on January 26th. Please visit our Facebook page or our website to get more details around that. We're going to have a panel discussion where we're going to have some people from the Muslim Mosque talking, Tammy McLaughlin, the director of World Relief, speaking, and hopefully we've invited a medical professional from the Wisconsin area to come and talk about some really key points around refugee resettlement and Islamophobia. So we're really excited about those conversations.
So January 26th, and where is that going to be held?
It's currently slated to happen at All Saints Lutheran Church.
Okay, and that's, if you go out Highway 21, you can see it on the right-hand side of the road. All Saints Lutheran, and what time?
The conversation starts at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Okay. All right. Very good. Thanks for being here. We're out of time.
Thank you for having me.
All
It's
right.
always a pleasure.
And this is our last show now before the holidays, so I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and be sure and join us in 2016. Until then, keep your eye on us. We've got Our Eye on Oshkosh.